Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation. My name is Dr. Sandra Romo, and we are excited to present to you our presentation that we would have presented in person. Um, Dr. Leinen and I conducted some research related to a media analysis on anti-vaping initiatives, focusing on what California has done to help build awareness about a vaping epidemic in today's youth, particularly the preteen and teenage age group. So in terms of vaping information, we've found that nearly 1 in 3 high school seniors tried vaping in the past year, and that advertisements from the tobacco industry are geared towards teens and young adults using attractive designs and methods of that nature to kind of allude them to trying this new trend. The expectation is that growth will continue. E-cigarettes are notorious for containing high levels of nicotine, and that the content in one Juul pod alone is equivalent to 1 pack of cigarettes. Since they leave little odor, e-cigarettes are easy for children to hide, particularly the youth. They even have flavors that make it more attractive to them to do in public places, including school, and kids are vaping marijuana also in increased rates. And so this has been something that's been turned into epidemic proportions. In society, parents don't have a lot that they can do to even notice it. And some of the designs for vaping are purposeful in alluding parents to how it relates to their kids.
Great. In looking at the research, we really wanted to try to understand the media projections that California, the Tobacco Free California campaign, was looking at. And so we wanted to note that this campaign that we're specifically using for our research and analysis was geared towards parents understanding what the effects of vaping was doing to their children, but we also needed to understand whether or not public service announcements in general were making a difference. And so we focused our literature review in really diving into the conversion rate. So 1 in 10 people in a target audience of a public service announcement, so in this case, parents, will make a behavior change. So that would be the hope of what Tobacco Free California was looking at. And so still 1 in 10 in the education factor. So the behavior change, meaning actually addressing their children, potentially looking at what behaviors as far as looking for the specific devices or understanding more about what vaping is doing to their children. So action steps could be, or behavior change could be very different. Studies published about the effectiveness of health communication campaigns found that utilizing an appropriate channel and targeting a specific audience was key. So as Tobacco Free California was looking at what they were creating as far as content, which we'll show you in a little bit during our media analysis, we needed to know that they needed to project their messaging in different channels. So via social media, via television, radio, wherever parents were consuming media in specific areas. And then integrating different styles of media is important in targeting audience where they're comfortable, which is another emphasis of what I just elaborated on. So if parents are on Facebook in a certain area of California or a certain racial demographic, they were targeting in different areas based on what they were finding that audience was comfortable within.
Exactly. So what we focused on in terms of doing a media analysis and what we this in terms of our discipline, we both teach in communication studies. There's a lot of research out there that focuses on how media affects children and teens in many different ways. We found this campaign, the Flavor Hooks campaign that Tobacco California initiated in 2019, was paramount in terms of that their focus on their target audience are parents of teens and youth in California rather than the teens themselves. So this campaign is an anti-vaping communication campaign that's used to promote awareness and build knowledge of the negative effects of vaping in today's youth. This is funded directly through Tobacco for California. They have began in 1989. Since then, they've seen an increase of 88% of Californians not smoking. They started a lot of anti-smoking initiatives in the late 80s, 90s. They've seen a lot of success through this and kind of have led the way and paved the way from a national perspective and how to allow people to understand the negative effects of nicotine and tobacco in general in terms of what it does towards their health. So this campaign is focused on building awareness to get conversations going and hopefully using a trickle-down effect and allowing parents to gain knowledge, being able to implement it and make behavior change in their lives and their families' lives to protect their youth. Instead of focusing on children to have them be more aware of it, they're focusing on parents. So what we found is we found some specific media strategies and strategic communication strategies that this campaign has used to reach their targeted audience in a way that's a little different than looking at it from a rhetorical perspective or looking at it from a qualitative or quantitative perspective. If you're looking at it from an analytic perspective in terms of media, we can see some direct uses of media theories and models, as well as behavior change models used in health communication that were effective in implementing this across the board. So the next couple of slides we're going to talk you through have some stats about the campaign as well as screenshots from the website to kind of paint the picture as to what they're doing from a digital communication perspective online to reach their audience members. And then we're also going to have a video of one of the commercials that are airing all throughout California in the last year and a half. So this is one of the first things you see when you go to their website. It has some very specific calls to action in terms of nicotine equals brain poison. It has 3 snippet areas you can see about flavors, nicotine, and then poison, and allows the parents to read more about it. Now, it's important to preface that this site is live. They have social media. They're doing a lot of digital trends through the internet. But they are leading their audience to this site in their PSA commercials that are being launched through YouTube and various other digital advertisements, but as well as on live TV. So you're sitting at home, you're watching, this commercial comes on, it'll immediately at the very end of it lead you to Tobacco Free California, or for more information, go to Flavors Hooks. This is a follow-up method in terms of communication. They're doing the initial call to action through some type of video advertisement and then leading you directly to this website to see how it is beneficial for you to learn more about it and see the effects of it on your children.
Great. One of the big focuses of this campaign was their concept of flavors hook kids, and therefore the action step, as Dr. Romo mentioned, was actually creating this follow-up website in educating specifically that the companies are targeting kids due to the flavors that they are making, and even kind of tapping into the parenting element of how we teach our kids to like various flavors. Even though there has been these websites really call out the tobacco companies and saying they know that they're hooking kids. Therefore, instead of deterring that, they're creating flavors such as donut flavored, unicorn, magic, gummy worm flavored sort of items that are targeting kids and allow them to talk about even their product to one another in a way that seems that they're not speaking towards tobacco in general, but just talking about, funny things and how they taste. So instead of, it's called flavorshookids.org is calling out those companies for creating flavors in that way, creating technology that is attractive to kids, and also making things that are devices that are easy to hide, and which is really promoting the product itself.
Great. And this is another picture. When you scroll down the slide, the site, it's very easy to use. You see the first one we showed you about the nicotine equals brain poison. And they have a call to action through this type of visual illustration. It's a photo that obviously has been altered to be a photo illustration, kind of showing you what it looks like in a middle school or high school restroom with these kids that are vaping. You can see the smoke there. You can see that it's very little smoke. The device itself is so tiny that to an untrained eye, you might not even know what it is or how it's being used among today's youth.
Just some other themes as we were looking rhetorically at the website and the campaign itself. We wanted to just kind of analyze messages within their messages, and here's some themes that we just thought we would share with you in case you had interest in the campaign. Flavors for Kids is something that we've talked about, but it's easier to smoke and harder to spot. Addiction is not a phase, and it really hits home the fact that early users move into harder items, even just traditional smoking within a year. You missed the tobacco industry's greatest scam, which features conversation between kids that are talking about use of tobacco products, but in normal conversation where you thought they were talking about something else. And if you can't sense the harm, how can they? So if you're not able to spot it with the regular eye and see that there's something wrong, how are you supposed to walk alongside your kids and educate them in a different way? So if you have interest in this, or if you'd like to help us rhetorically analyze this further, there are a lot of things to look at within this campaign.
Correct. And just to kind of highlight, Tobacco Free California has done a great job at providing different additional tools and resources in other languages. On their site, they have a Chinese page, a Korean page, a page that's written in Vietnamese as well as in Spanish, so that it provides parents with and adults knowledge in their native languages that will help them in being able to communicate this to their children. This slide here shows some snippets of some of the commercials. We're going to, in a second, toggle out of our presentation and show you an actual brief commercial that's out there. All of the commercials that you see on regular live TV are available via YouTube on the Tobacco Free California site. I recommend that you go view them. It was really hard for us to narrow down the ones to show you today because they all have significant calls to action. And after we show you the video, we're going to go back and show you some of the theoretical models that we feel are being used effectively in this sense to really create a call to action and to educate parents to the need to show this. So I'm going to toggle out, bear with me, and provide you with the video here.
You're so annoying.
Is it the boy that always talks to you?
Maybe.
Him?
Yeah, I
Really?
know. He's not popular, but I like that.
You just missed the tobacco industry's latest scam because you were supposed to.
So minty.
Great. So as we move back, as you saw in that video, hopefully it went through fine from a technology perspective in this virtual presentation. You saw a very 30-second truncated version of what actually is happening. These kids have these devices charging in their computers. It looks like it might be a flash drive or a thumb drive. They pull it out, they're talking, they're hanging out, they pass it along. Smoke is so minimal that if they have the window open, it can be easily blown out of the room. And you won't even recognize it because you're going to walk by and think it smells like cotton candy or bubble gum or some type of other flavor that relates to it there. So now you can see the first model that we found that works well with it is the knowledge, attitude, behavior model. This is used significantly in health communication as well as in risk communication. It's known as the CAB model. This is where we're looking at building knowledge, providing the group, the audience with education, which turns into knowledge, which then should turn into an attitude, which then can turn into a behavior. So you can see I have a little snippet here about vitamin D and what happens when you gain knowledge about it, how you shift your attitude towards it to create a behavior that relates to it. But specifically, the knowledge attitude behavior model modifies human health related behaviors by dividing changes into three continuum processes: knowledge acquisition, belief generation, and behavior formation. Research has indicated that the correlations between information level and overt behaviors and between attitude and overt behaviors are generally positive when utilizing a model like this to initiate behavior change through targeted communication. So you saw in that commercial, as a parent, both Dr. Linen and I are parents, there's a significant call to action and how easily, as a parent, you could miss something like that going on in your child's bedroom, and creates that almost fear tactic to say, okay, I need to be more aware of what they have going on with their friends. So communication is significantly linked to social environments, which we know, and takes place in many different ways. There are social and psychological factors that influence the communication process. And through this targeted approach of PSA commercials that are streamed through different digital communication trends, as well as live TV, can create a call to action for parents to go read and learn more about vaping and the initiatives they need to take to help prevent this from being detrimental to their children's health. In addition to the knowledge attitude behavior model is entertainment education. Now, entertainment education is a targeted communication strategy that is the process of purposely designing, implementing media messages to entertain and educate audience members, giving them knowledge and hopefully shaping their perceptions about an educational concept and creating favorable attitudes. Dr. Linen, you want to kind of expand on it and how it was used?
Yeah, entertainment. So it allows for us to work through the steps that are presented there for you, where we are engaged for that 30-second spot. You're kind of curious what they're talking about. You're then kind of shocked by the message that is brought to you. Through the process, it is allowing for you to understand that it might be shocked by the commercial. You're going to be shocked by the process itself, and move us forward to hopefully making that behavior change that we discussed in our literature review, and being that 1 in 10 about having either a favorable attitude towards understanding your process, or whether or not you are going to be looking into this. This takes a little bit into, if you look at entertainment education pedagogy, you can look at the storytelling process a little bit with Everett Rogers, who talks about how it is super important for us to have stories that engage people. In the commercial that we just observed, we are understanding how we can be engaged with these young schoolgirls are speaking about, and then shock ourselves into understanding that we have been taught something through that process, and therefore we are having a favorable attitude with that as well. Entertainment education is also something that we can implement globally, and there has been a lot of campaigns that have been analyzed through this lens, and so we can understand how this model can not only be applied to just educating here, but especially with the exploration of different cultures and languages that this campaign has specifically taken, it allows for different attitudes through culture to be changed as well. For example, something concrete, the website is in English is translated to flavors are good, or flavors taste good, and so we need to make sure that there is that's what's connecting to a different audience. And so we are ultimately in entertainment education trying to make an impact and move action. That would be the point.
Exactly. Great point. So this slide here is just kind of like a visual aid to kind of highlight some things that we feel entertainment education has been used successfully in this campaign. one of the things that I think that we've kind of touched on is entertainment education is traditionally used in a longer period of time over series, usually of television shows or audio radio shows. Historically, that kind of try to ignite behavioral change slowly. Through the use of a commercial is a new extension of the model. And the reason why we found why we selected it is that it is being effectively used because they're creating this dramatic sense of everyday life coming to you through your television and through a series of different ways to show it. The commercial we highlighted was one aspect that it's shown. There's other aspects where it shows children being irritable at the dinner table, children hanging out in the bathroom too long at school, and things that we wouldn't really kind of understand. If you also go to their site and you scroll to the bottom, they had testimonials and quotes from parents when they've had conversations with their children that said, I didn't understand why I was upset all the time. I didn't understand why I was so irritable, and that parents made this connection. So this visual aid here helps you to see the impact-driven to entertainment-driven continuum in which entertainment education flows through. They have the developmental sector that works on creating the communication, and they have the social behavior change communications, and they have mainstream entertainment, and then entertainment education is in and meshes in the middle of this diagram to kind of help highlight where we can reach people. And so that's just one type of visual aid for you to kind of see how it's being used. In terms of our analysis, we found and our results showed that this is being effective. Parents are now building more awareness of it. They're having more conversations with it. And then in the last part that we found, this initiated during 2019. This was based off of research that was funded in 2018. And in December 2019, Congress passed a federal law raising the tobacco age to 21 nationwide. This, in large part, was due to the fact of the increased number of kids under the age of 21 utilizing tobacco and nicotine for the first time, primarily through vaping. And so this law also extends into vaping. You'll see that despite the congressional legislation related to it, that the president has been very outspoken about this as well, and that the tobacco industries need to do better jobs related to this. National data shows that about 95% of adult smokers began smoking before they reached age 21. And that the ages 18 to 21 is one of the most critical periods in terms of developing these behaviors and these addictions to nicotine that carry on to regularly and daily use. So this is just one step to show that the use of entertainment education and the CAB, the Knowledge, Attitudes, Behavior model, is effective. In this campaign, specifically in California, that's translated to a nationwide model. Absolutely.
Great job. And as a final point, it's the great thing that's very impactful about this process, as stated in our prior research even to analyzing this, reaching the target audience where they are is super important. And so them being able to diversify with the use of fluid media, such as video, and making these spots very short and absorbable, allowed for it to be on television, allowed for it to be heard on radio, allowed for it to be on social media and absorbed, which is very important and makes it more effective. If you have further questions about this process that we worked through with our research, we would be more than happy to be in touch with you. Our email addresses are there. Are thankful for the opportunity to present with you here at the National Social Science Association.
Yes, thank you. And if you need anything else, just feel free to reach out. We look forward to being in touch with you. Have a great day.